Bouteflika's statement was his first since the biggest displays of dissent in Algeria since the 2011 Arab Spring uprisings that unseated rulers in neighboring countries. In a sign of a disconnect from the mostly young population, almost 70% of which are aged below 30, he communicated via letter, as he has since suffering a stroke in 2013. Zalain arrived to submit the documents on Sunday evening, but there was no sign of Bouteflika, who Swiss television said remained at a hospital in Geneva. I listened and heard the passionate call from the protesters, especially the thousands of young people, Bouteflika wrote, repeating a previous pledge to hold a referendum on constitutional reform. There was no immediate response from protesters, who had dispersed by the time the letter was published in the evening. Bouteflika's opponents say he is no longer fit to lead, citing his health and what they call chronic corruption and a lack of economic reforms to tackle high unemployment, which exceeds 25% among people under 30. Analysts say the protesters lack leadership and organization in a country still dominated by veterans of the 1954-62 independence war against France, including Bouteflika. But traditionally weak and divided opposition and civic groups have called for protests to go on should Bouteflika continue to pursue re-election. The government has played on fears among many Algerians of a return of bloodshed seen in the 1990s, when an estimated 200,000 people were killed after Islamists took up arms when the military cancelled elections they were poised to win. Students gathered in their thousands on Sunday at university faculties, one of them near the Constitutional Council. Students chanted, "No to a fifth term," and "A free and democratic Algeria." Further protests thousands later marched through the city center. A diplomatic source estimated that as many as 70,000 people had massed in Algiers, including a rally at Bab et Souaire University, the country's biggest. "We will not stop until we get rid of this system," said Ika, a 23-year-old student, summing up the mood on the streets. According to witnesses and local television footage, protesters also turned out in their thousands in other cities including Oran and Constantine. Some 6,000 also protested in Paris, where many Algerians live. After the decade-long Islamist insurgency that Bouteflika crushed early in his rule, Algerians generally tolerated a political system leaving little room for dissent as a price to pay for relative peace and stability.